Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Confessions of a Loveaholic. I have a wonderful special guest for you today. Her name is Shelly Bortolotto, and she is a full-time life coach who teaches her clients how to manage their brains so they can feel confident, capable, and worthy again. She has honed in her coaching life skills through certifying at the Life Coach School, and as you'll hear, she has an incredible ability to hold space for her clients as they transform their lives. Shelly, welcome so much to the show.
Amy, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
We're excited. You have such an incredible background, and I knew as soon as I read your bio and the details of what you do that I had to have you on the show. So I'm so glad that you're here because we're going to be talking about mindset, which is one of my favorite topics,
Hmm.
and how to manage our brain because our brain can either be our greatest enemy or our greatest friend, and we just have to learn how to talk to it and how to have it be our friend. So that's part of why it's so important for us to have the conversations around confessions of a loveaholic. That's why I call loveaholics who are people who are addicted to a certain pattern. And what's cool about addictions is we can break them. We just need to know how to break them. And that's why I love talking about mindset work. So let's get started with the basic high level first here, Shelly. How did you get started with all of this in the first place? Like what makes you so passionate about mindset work and thought work in the first place?
It's really, really simple, Amy. My brain exploded. Not quite literally, but nearly. I basically popped out a kid through C-section, and I went almost immediately into postpartum anxiety. But no one figured it out, or at least everybody else figured it out and never told me, because I had nearly 2 years of undiagnosed hating on myself. The guilt, the shame, the I'm not good enough, the I need to be better went on for a very, very long time before anyone was like, oh, this is what's going on. I remember like sitting in my doctor's office and I just finished breastfeeding. She was probably like a year and 3 quarters. And I'm like doing this little quiz, the Clio Cosmo quizzes where you like kind of want to get about in the middle. Like you're a good friend, but you're not this, but you're not that. You're like in the middle, always perfect. So I'm like, okay, I got 14. What's a good score? And my doctor like deadpans me. She's like, 0. And you could just about like see the light bulb going in my life. I'm like, oh, so I don't want to be in the middle. It's the test I was doing was like the diagnostic instrument for how much you worry and how much anxiousness you're in. So I'm like, okay. Let's talk about fixing this.
Too funny. I love that because you were doing you're running the diagnostic test just like you're like just it's the same as Cosmo, right? Wow. Oh my goodness. So I love that you described this as your brain exploding. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by that? Because I have like a visual, visceral experience of what that was like for me in my life, in my world. And I think this happens so much to women in general, in particular, especially in a postpartum situation. And there's why is it still so taboo to talk about all of this stuff? What it's
I
Oh,
don't
so
know,
tell us
but
more. What does it mean that your brain exploded and how did you start that healing journey?
so it was really just like going into being a mum on overdrive. Like I couldn't sit still. I always had to be doing something or trying to be better or like cleaning or like, and I'm not a cleaner. So Derek, my husband, he was just like, just sit down, like just stop. I'm like, I can't stop. Like, why not? Because then it all implodes. As long as I'm in motion and doing something, that sentence in my head of I'm not good enough was quietened. I was able to like put a blanket over it as long as I was constantly keeping something going. And it's really easy to not pick up on that when you're a mum to a newborn because you are constantly having to keep something going. Either you're staying at home with them full time and either you're breastfeeding or feeding with formula or you're back to work and now you're like doing the daycare shuffle and getting to work and then trying to still actually be a functional human being that they want to pay And then you're like rushing home to get to daycare so you don't get those daycare charges, and you're taking care of your kids. So it's so much on the go that people don't often realize you're overdoing it. And the reason I was overdoing it is because I felt so uncomfortable with my own level of thinking, oh, I'm good enough. And that was just hormones. My hormones and my brain chemicals were completely out of whack. Like they were just like not connecting. And I had some breastfeeding challenges as well. So this all combined to be like, now you're not a good enough mum. Now you can't do it. Now you think you're terrible. You should have done this. You should have done that. It was that constant blame and guilt and shame. So I did actually find a doctor that could diagnose this brain explosion, basically. And this brain explosion also looked like a lot of crying. So I was crying, but no one knew because I was crying in the 15 minutes from when I dropped my daughter at daycare to when I drove to work. The only moment of time in almost my entire day when I was with no one and no one could see me. The problem is somebody did see me. I pulled over on the side of the highway to cry, and my husband's driving the other way. He like sees me pulled over on the side of the highway, not looking good, with his boss. Him and his boss, Flipper Yui, it's very Aussie, we Flipper Yui, drop me off. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, nothing. I just pulled over I was crying too hard. I couldn't drive. I pulled over to cry. He's like, oh my God. And I'm like, this is normal. This isn't like my daily routine. He's like, no, we need this to be fixed. I don't want you to be crying on your way to work, especially while you're driving. That was what a brain explosion looked like. It looked like hiding my crying, not feeling good enough, always having to be in motion, and not having any ability to control the thoughts in my head anymore.
That sounds so scary, Shelly. And thank goodness that your husband saw that. And obviously, he's a very good husband and was like, no, let's get this addressed. Wow. I, that's so crazy that you had to go through that. And you're right, like, that's so much of the women's story of regardless of how some of those symptoms start, we feel like we need to do it in secret. Wow. So I'm well, first of all, we don't worry everyone, there's a happy ending. Okay, there's
There
a
is a
happy
happy
ending.
ending. And I look back now and I'm like, how am I telling this story that just sounds so crazy that went on for so long? Like, this is nuts. And I look back now, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I didn't notice. And I was the one in it.
Wow. And now you can speak from a place of wisdom, right? Not from a place of pain. And this is very important. A lot of people ask me, Emmy, how can you share, all these horrible things that happened to you in your life? And I always tell people, don't ever share. This is my perspective as a coach. Don't share when you're in it. You have to share from a place of wisdom, because when we're in it and we're still processing, we can share that with a friend and people who are experts, but not with the whole world, right? Like it compounds the pain. But here we are, we can share from a place of wisdom and now helping others go through that in a safe and sacred place. So, Shelly, you are an expert in the method of the self-coaching model. Can you tell us what the self-coaching model is and how this method is used in noticing your thoughts and what the impact that can be to a person using this?
Okay. So first I want to tell you what it isn't, because this is very important, because this is what I came into it thinking mindset work meant. People talked about mindset. I thought mindset was standing in front of a mirror. This is literally what my mom told me it was. Standing in front of a mirror thinking, I am beautiful, I am beautiful, I am amazing, I am amazing, I will make a power move today. Even just saying, I am good enough, I am good enough, I'm good enough. That sort of mindset work doesn't work until the very end. Because if you're trying to literally stand in front of the mirror and do what feels like lying to yourself, it's not going to have any effect other than that you're going to get spit on your mirror.
We'll definitely get spit on that mirror, yes. And that's about now you have more work because now you have to clean the mirror again.
You're right. So that mindset work is not like chanting mantras to yourself. It's not just being like, I am great, I am amazing, I am beautiful, I am loved. All those are wonderful thoughts. So we, of course, we want to think. But if our brain isn't there yet, there's no way you're going to be able to think them. And I say this from the deepest depths of hell. Like, it's a stepping stone process. So that stepping stone process does start with having the courage to look at the thoughts in your head right now. And I've just back to back coached people this morning, and it takes courage to look at a thought and realize that you're thinking, I should have been better at this. Or even a thought that you might think could be very useful or happy doesn't always match the feeling that you'd logically think. So thinking, I might be successful, most people it might be hope or happiness or joy. For a lot of my clients, the thought I might be successful creates a feeling of panic or fear because something else is going on. So in order to look at this thought and then notice the thought in your head, get help noticing it with a coach, and then match it to a feeling, and then ask yourself, oh, so when I'm in this thought and when I'm in this feeling, what actions am I really doing from this feeling? So this thought of I might be successful and feeling panic results in the actions of avoiding paying bills, avoiding cleaning the house, avoiding asking for the things that you need, avoiding anything that will move you towards success. Because you've got this mismatch, this understanding of like success, is this something that I need to panic and fear about? And so the result is I keep myself not successful because something in your brain and in your subconscious sees that as way, way safer than actually eating a healthy lunch and getting out for some exercise, aka a daily success.
I think this is so powerful, Shelly, because this is one of the main things that I talk about with my clients as well, is we might have a desire or a goal, but it creates panic or chaos or dysregulation in the nervous system. And then we need to address what's going on and where's the cognitive dissonance, right? Of like the goal that you want, that is, it seems like a good idea or seems like something you want, but we need to address the thought that is now managing inside the body and what emotion is coming up, because that's the foundation that we need to address and not just push towards the goal, right? It can't just be willpower. There's so much more there.
Yeah.
So Shelly, how can someone start to manage their thoughts? That seems like, trying to corral feral cats. How do you
Well,
manage? How do you even start this process? Is it even truly possible, Shelly? Please tell us the truth.
so I love to give the example of a particular movie. The first thing we do to manage our thoughts is we write it down using this self-coaching model of, we have a circumstance out in the world, a very neutral thing. We have a thought about it. And that thought, that single sentence in our head, creates a single feeling in our body. From that feeling, we ask ourselves 4 questions. What do I do? What do I not do? What do I ruminate in my head about? What am I focusing on? And what sorts of words do I say to others? Those are the 4 kinds of actions that happen in the self-coaching model. And then the result is a result you get. That result will very, very often match the feeling. So the first step is just to like watch it and look at it the first time. And then you go out in your world and you watch it and look at it again. So have you ever seen the movie The Notebook?
Yes,
Yes,
I've
it's
seen
a
it.
very classic one. I love it to death. But I cry every time, right? So because I've seen it so often, I know which bit I'm going to cry in. So I know when to get the tissues.
Mm. Mm.
I know ahead of time what's going to happen next. It's the same idea when you write yourself a self-coaching model. You know that once you start feeling guilt, you're going to avoid cleaning the kitchen. You're going to avoid doing laundry because you're feeling guilty. So you can kind of watch, like, oh, yeah, the minute this thought shows up in my brain in the morning, she was mid morning for me or mid afternoon. I should be a better parent. Oh, now I'm going to start feeling guilty. And now I'm going to start doing actions to avoid, I'm going to be on my phone scrolling. I'm going to be disconnected to my kid. I'm not going to be planning dinner. Like, the result is I don't actually show up as the parent I want to be that day. But at least now that I've seen the movie once, I can be like, oh, yeah, this is going to happen. And then as you get better and better at watching, oh, this is that movie montage of what's going to happen next, I can be like, oh, wait, I see that thought coming into my head. I've now created some neutrality. I'm like, oh, wait, but maybe I'm kind of a good parent today. I've already done this. You can question it and push back. And you don't have to fall into that same sense of guilt and shame and create that result that my husband used to come home to every evening, of me not feeling like a good parent, not having shown up as a great parent, not having dinner done, not having the kitchen clean. And this was kind of like, I know it's very cliche of these are all the things the mum should do, but it was kind of our setup at the time where he would come home, we would have dinner. And on the days where I had been able to tell myself good things about me, the result was we had a calm, lovely evening together.
I love that, Shelly. I love talking about it like a movie, right? Because our lives are movies. It's all these memories that we play, short little movies, either good ones or bad ones. And it depending on the perception of it at the time, right? You can sort of go back and then see, because everything's pattern recognition, right? So when you
Yeah.
start recognizing the pattern, you start going into like, oh, like this thought is gonna create this emotion. So how do I then reframe that thought, reframe the process, or not, sometimes not put yourself in certain situations and environments. Shelly, you have a powerful process around what it means to allow an emotion. Can you tell us,
Yeah.
what does it mean to allow an emotion? I'm putting this in quotations because there are a lot of different definitions around this and people have a different way of explaining it, but I'd love to hear your insights on it. And not only what does it mean to allow an emotion, but also the critical importance of allowing the emotion and
Yeah.
how dangerous it is when we don't allow the emotion.
So we talked about the movie montage of like, oh, at some point you'll get to notice that thought and you'll be able to step out of that action and result. And sometimes you won't. And that'll typically be because the thought creates a really big emotion that's really uncomfortable to be in, like shame, guilt. Think of it like a new movie. We've been talking about The Notebook. It's lovely. We know what's happening next. Think of a different movie. I grew up when Jaws came out. Do we all still know the like
Oh yeah,
the scary
definitely. Yeah,
shark music?
yes.
Yeah, so it's like scary shark music for some thoughts and some feelings. So when we have a feeling, an emotion, an uncomfortable one, and maybe like an 8 or a 9 or a 10, it's really hard to just slip out of that model and into a new model and do something different. So for stuff like that, we're pushing back so hard that we actually need to allow the emotion. And allowing the emotion is like sitting quietly, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, and inviting that emotion to just be in your body as a physical vibration. Easiest one to describe here is nervousness. When you get butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous. So allowing an emotion is deliberately sitting with those butterflies in your stomach and breathing through it. So breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, and in through your nose and out through your mouth. And the idea is that you're pushing out that emotion with your air. You can give it a color and you can breathe out that color. And as we do that, we often do give the emotion a shape or a texture or a color to draw attention to where it is in the body. Because when you focus on where it is in the body, it is actually what allows us to release that emotion. And it's very safe to do. Now, this is not the same thing as having something like a panic attack. This is something that we do in a very safe, very quiet, very private place. When I allow emotions, especially guilt, it looks like this. Because when I do it, I let my muscles move as they wish to move. And often that's a wobbling of the lip or a scrunching of the face. Letting the muscles move is part of what moves the emotion through. So why do we do it? We do it because when we are buffering against an emotion, it keeps us in that old model, that unintentional model we don't want to be in. When we push ourselves to have the courage to allow an emotion, we get more leverage to step out of that old thought into a new one. I've allowed emotions before, and literally, as I'm like breathing out the last bit, my brain starts offering me new sentences of, well, actually, you did do this today. Actually, you did accomplish this. And oh, you are ahead in this thing more than you realized. So the brain gets access to that piece of your brain that is more encouraging because it's not trying to hold it down. It takes a lot of emotional effort to push down an emotion we don't want to feel versus holding it like a beach ball and lifting it up out of the water.
It's so powerful, Shelly. I remember growing up, we were not taught to allow
Mm-mm,
emotions. It
not at
was,
all.
push it down, hide it, pretend like it's not there. And my emotions were not valid. So what happened for me is, because I was a very sensitive person and none of my emotions were valid in my household, I started pushing them down, and that created an autoimmune disorder in my body.
Oh, because it's very generational. If your parents didn't feel comfortable with emotions as a thing, their response is to ask you to push them down. And so we do it. And then we don't get that skill as a kid. So then we get our kids to push it down, which is just how life is. We learn from our parents.
I love that you use that word, Shelly, that it is a skill. So the powerful part about skills is that they can be learned, right? And also, very important, it's okay if we didn't learn it from our parents. I learned it in adulthood, and now I help my clients learn that skill as well. Do you want to walk our audience a little bit through maybe the beginning part of how that's a skill and how someone could start learning that skill?
Yeah, before we do that, I want to talk about something we touched on in the bio is it's about holding space. So while
Yes.
we learn that skill, we don't want to judge ourselves. Like when you learn to ride a bike, you fall off the bike, and hopefully there's someone there to encourage you to get back on. But you don't fall off the bike and stand there and beat yourself up and judge yourself and judge yourself and judge yourself before you get back to do more practice. Working with a coach is sometimes that extra framework that we need to let ourselves hold space so that we don't judge ourselves while we're learning this new skill. Learning this skill usually has a reason. So we come into coaching with a goal, like I want to have a better relationship with my kids, or I want to trust myself around men, or I want to organize my finances. I want to feel in charge of asking for a raise at work, something like that. So we learn the skill with a goal in mind so we can get to that end goal. And the way we do it is we start to look at, well, what are we thinking now that's creating our current result? And allowing those emotions, if need be, like the guilt, the shame, the worthlessness, the feeling of incompetent. That's what comes up a lot with my clients. But they're not, they just feel it. And then we practice it week over week, and we get them to write models and watch their own thoughts in between sessions so that they get better and better and faster at shifting themselves into new thoughts that will serve them.
I love that, Shelly. So absolutely, remember skills. You're not going to be an expert at it overnight. This is something that you start, you get a little bit better, and sometimes you recognize that there is an area that you need some more help in. And to your point, Shelly, the power of being able to do this in sacred space and doing it with an expert, right? Just same going back to the same scenario of, do you want to learn how to ride a bike from someone who already knows how to ride a bike, or someone who is a newbie just like you, right? No one, it's like the phrase of like the blind leading the blind, right? You're not going to get too far if you're not learning from an expert and someone who doesn't know what they're doing. And this is the power of coaching, right? So on that note, Shelly, how can people find out more about what it is that you do and your magic in allowing emotions and starting with the process of learning the skill set of the thought to the feeling to the shift in their life? How can people find out more about you? And you mentioned offline that you had a little freebie for my audience. Do you want to share that right now?
I do. And Emmy, thank you for asking. I love, before we jump into that, I want to say I love that concept of it's like riding a bike because of the phrase, you never forget how to ride a bike. And once you learn this skill of self coaching, you'll never forget. It's the same idea that your brain just magically knows how to do it forever.
I love it. That's
How to learn that skill with me is to go to my website. Emmy will put it in the show notes, and you can book a consult and talk to me about what it's like to get that one-on-one coaching. I work with my clients one-on-one in this sacred little confidential container. We coach for 12 weeks, and at the end of it, they have that goal that they want to get to, and they have the skill of self-coaching, which is a magical, magical marriage. And this cute little freebie that I've just released is about releasing shame. So I've called it Break Up with Shame. And I was explaining to Emmy, it's for everybody that's ever felt guilty. So basically, every parent ever. And everybody else that feels like they are holding that shame inside them and they don't know what to do with it. And because you're holding it inside, you're showing up as the person that you wish you weren't. So I've got that little freebie on my website. You can pick it up. It's called Break Up with Shame. And it is just a lovely little way of teaching your body how to allow an emotion.
I love that, Shelly. Thank you so much for being on the show. Can we tell the audience, we're gonna put this in the show notes as well, but what's your website real quick for those listening?
It's shellybortolotto.com. Do you want me to spell it?
Awesome. Now we'll put it in
We'll put it
the
in the
we'll
show
put it
notes.
in the notes. It's a really cool. It literally sounds exactly like you spell it exactly like it's said, but you have to see it the first time.
I know. I married into a very Italian family. They're delightful.
I love it. Well, everyone sounds amazing. Shelly, I'm so happy that not only did you surpass everything that you were going through, you are now thriving and you get to do this for other people around the planet. My love to you, my lovely. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm so excited for everyone to go get that freebie and learn how to break up with guilt. Any final words for our listeners today, Shelly?
That is it. It's a pleasure. If I could give you one final word, it's learn how to manage your brain because it's that skill is such a difference to have. I wish I'd learned this when I was 17.
I love it. And with those final words, 100% agree with you, Shelly. Let's go learn to manage our brain because that is where life truly changes. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode of Confessions of a Loveaholic.